Welcome to Bedtime Stories. The Garden of Freedom. Long ago, on the banks of the river, lived a fairy. The birds and bees, the herons and hawks, the geese and gulls, the turtles and toads, and, of course, the other fairies, knew her. Most of the people, though, could not see her, but they could smell her magnificent garden. Those who were aware of her knew her as Pearl, the most ambitious fairy in the land. Ambitious, ambitious, the toads croaked, and the turtles droned her name as they lumbered across lawns to peer at her glorious blooms. The herons and hawks swooped overhead to watch Pearl at work. Everyone admired her, but few spoke with her. Other fairies were a little lazy, preferring summer dozing, enjoying talk more than toil. But Pearl was always busy, sweeping the silver fern, from the cosmos to the carnations, from the peonies to the pansies. She fussed over each flower, dusting leaves, patting petals. She filled her skirt with droplets of dew and river water, and fed each bloom, at dawn and again at dusk. Her garden perfumed the air, exciting the bees, delighting the birds. Still, they asked Pearl, "Why do you work so hard?" The other fairies climbed into the Canterbury bells to nap, morning, noon and evening, and wondered at her frantic fairy garden. "This is the garden of freedom," Pearl answered. "Free of interference." Pearl took such pride in her garden, and guarded it so well, that she permitted no one to touch or look or smell for long. She shooed away the birds to their nests and the bees to their hives. She turned over the Canterbury bells and dropped intruding fairies to the ground. "That's not freedom, Pearl," the creatures sighed. "If you believed in freedom, you would let us freely roam and have us enjoy your magnificent work, crafted among your flowers." "Shoo!" Pearl cried, hurrying back to her work. Pearl's special pride, the blooms she guarded most closely, were the brilliantly colored poppies that grew in the center of her wonderland. No one, not the bumblebees, not the butterflies, not the birds, and certainly not the fairies, was permitted to land on her poppies. "They're fragile. They're perfect. Don't touch them," she warned. Then one summer day, as the sun poured down upon the soil and the flowers stretched their stems to soak in the warmth and light, Pearl scurried to the river to collect their morning drink. Suddenly a dragon accidentally flew into Pearl's garden. He was tiny, no bigger than a June bug, and was exhausted. When he spotted Pearl's colorful poppies, he flew at once to land on one. "Ah," he sighed deeply, "what a wonderful resting spot." The littlest dragon had flown south all the way from a northern valley, across lake after lake, searching for his family. He had lost sight of them when he was trapped in a cloud. He had been born just weeks before, and this was his first flight. "Time to go catch deerflies," his mother had said. So they flew along with his brother and sister, and the littlest dragon got separated him from his loved ones. He was truly lost, and that day all he wanted was a rest. So there he sat, alone and tired, sighing on the plushest poppy in Pearl's garden. On her way back to the hydrangea, her skirt full of water, Pearl spotted the littlest dragon. "Intruder!" she cried. She threw up her hands, and the water she'd collected fell to the grounds. "Look what the tiny dragon made me do," Pearl wailed. Ready to tear a scale off that little dragon's back, she took off faster than a lightning bug. As she landed on a nearby poppy, she was ready to shout when the littlest dragon looked at her with his bright, shining watery eyes wide open. And he said, "Oh, little fairy, what a beautiful garden you have." Pearl looked more closely. She had never before seen a dragon, after all. She had seen dragonflies, but never a real, live dragon. "I have come all the way from the north," the littlest dragon said, "and there are many gardens there, but I have never seen one quite so beautiful. You must be a special one, sweet fairy, to have given the world such a spectacular gift. Pearl said, "Thank you, so much." Pearl's anger fell away, and then she laughed. She realized she had not laughed for a long time. "What's your name?" she asked. "I don't have a name," he said, and another tear fell from his eye. "Oh, yes, you do," she said, looking at the poor poppy sagging underneath his weight. "You're daring D," she said. "D is for dragon, and you dared to come into my garden." "I love my name," he said, so pleased to have one at last. Daring Dragon said, "Pearl Fairy, you have worked hard on this beautiful garden, so let the world come and enjoy your pride. And you will definitely get an immense pleasure with their happiness." After that day all the other creatures and fairies were invited and welcomed to the Garden of Freedom, or they say, Pearl's Garden, where the fairy and the dragon known as Daring D sang and danced on the banks of the river, and where the garden bloomed ever brighter and more beautiful than ever before. If you like the story, please do like, share and subscribe. Thank you for listening. Good night.